There's a guy out there that not enough people are talking about. Maybe it's because he's not that freakishly athletic, or maybe it's because he's not that exciting to watch. But there's one thing for sure, he's the craftiest player in high school basketball. We've gotten so used to seeing guys jump out of the gym, shoot deep three-point shots, and we've kind of forgotten about the fundamentals and basics of basketball. Just because a person can't throw down those crazy dunks and have limitless range, it doesn't mean they're not great. If you can do the fundamental stuff and the basic stuff of the game, you can be one of the best players, and this guy right here, he's proven that. The only problem is that he's not getting the recognition he deserves. Don't worry, that's why we're making this video. So if you're new to the channel and you like stuff like this, what are you doing? Join the family, hit that subscribe button and leave a like for more. And without further ado, let's dive straight into it. Issa Silva. You may have or may have not heard about this guy, but there's one thing for sure. You will definitely know his name at the end of this year. Ever since he was just 4 years old, he started playing basketball, and I think that's why he's got the ball on the string. He's always been around the game. He grew up playing basketball and he's dedicated his life to it. And just recently, he committed to Syracuse, and here's what he had to say about that. Their vision for me in the program is what stood out. Before I made the decision, I told my parents I wanted it to be a basketball decision. The school itself was the biggest cherry on the top that anyone could ask for. I wanted to go to a place that really valued me and would help me develop into an NBA player. I shared that quote with you guys because I wanted you to understand how mature he is when he talks about not just basketball, but his entire life. And when he was asked about his long-term goals about basketball, this is what he had to say. I want to play in the NBA as long as I can. After that, I want to stay in basketball. Whether that's being a coach or being in the front office for an NBA team, that's my goal. I can't explain and express enough how special he is. As a freshman playing for his varsity team, he didn't produce a lot, but his sophomore year, that changed. He averaged 21.5 points per game, 2.4 assists, and roughly 4 rebounds. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think, but just watching the film and highlights, it really looks like he was born in the wrong generation. Have you guys ever watched an old NBA game? He looks like one of those players out there. Just so fundamental, does not turn the ball over, has that perfect shooting form, and he kind of looks like Pistol Pete as well. I guess you could go out on a limb and say he's the modern day version of Pistol Pete. Do not get it twisted, even though he's a fundamental player, he's also flashy. He can make those step back threes, do behind the back passes, and many more. And if you don't believe my take on him, just listen to what his head coach had to say. There was a couple of times this year that I was sitting between two of my assistants and we would just try to keep a straight face. Also adding, there were a handful of times this year that we would have to elbow each other on the bench and say, "Did you see that?" When those moments would happen. You just had to sit back and enjoy them. That's so unreal to me that the head coaches have to hold back their excitement. Of course, if you play basketball, you know why they do this. They don't want them to get that big head and get too cocky. With all that good stuff being said, our story's gonna take a strange turn. Before all the hype, hard work, and basketball could even happen, his grandparents actually immigrated from Mexico and worked on farms. That is what really installed that hardworking mentality into Issa. He went on to say in an article this about it: "I see how hard my parents and grandparents worked to get what they got. It makes me want to work even harder. One day I want to make sure they don't have to work anymore. Both sides of my family worked so hard to get here." Like I just told you guys, that hard work carried over to Issa because he worked countless hours in the backyard. He would spend 4 to 5 hours a day learning how to shoot the proper way. And here's what he also had to say about that: "I grew up knowing only how to shoot through elementary and middle school. We had a court and had turf on it, so my dad and I would just shoot. Since I started playing when I was 4 years old, we always went through the fundamentals. That's about the time I ended up falling in love with the game." A little fun fact to throw in there is that Issa's dad, whose name is Raphael, was a huge soccer fan. So this actually drove Issa to play soccer until he was in 4th grade, but he ultimately quit for basketball. Quote unquote, "My dad is a soccer fan, so he was not happy when we transitioned to basketball. We are a total basketball family now." I thought that was pretty interesting. Anyways, let's continue on. Not only is he a hard worker, but he's excited to put in the work, and that makes a huge difference. If you're working hard and you hate it, it's just not the same as loving what you do. And to go along with that, listen to what his trainer had to say. He would run through the walls because he would be so excited to be in the gym. He works so hard. He loves the gym and he loves to study. Issa is a student of the game and is adamant about perfection. He asks all types of questions that even make me think. I really don't have to speak on this too much because you can just see from the film and highlights on the screen, he's a very, and I mean very smart basketball player. Makes all the right plays and the right reads, so it makes sense that he's committed and signed with Stanford. In the past season, which was his junior year, he also had another breakout year. He led his team to a 22-10 record, which is pretty solid, and also pitched in 18.5 points, 4.5 assists, and 4.2 rebounds. He was also named to the All-Metro First Team, and what was most impressive about him won't even be seen in the stat sheet. The best part about his game in his junior season was his defense. His head coach said this year we really changed his defensive mentality. There was a lot of times this year where we would have a disagreement on who he was guarding because I would purposely not put him on the best guard on the other team because I wanted to rest him early in the game, but his competitiveness took over. He wanted to guard the player and shut him down. Once we got in the playoffs, we turned him loose defensively. His coach also added later in the same interview, he has an edge to him that makes him good. He wants to prove he's the best player in the gym all the time. And if you thought you would be able to rattle this guy, you'd have to throw that out the window as well, because listen to this. His head coach said, he stays calm for a teenager. When opposing crowds really started to get on him, that's when he elevated his game. He was able to rise to the occasion. I don't know if we've ever had a story video where we use this many quotes, but that is such high praise from his head coach. You don't see a lot of scenarios where the head coach of a team gives a player this much amount of praise, so I just find that really impressive. The last and final quote that I'm going to throw in there is a pretty good one, and it tells you a little more about him, so listen to what his parents had to say. As a parent, you sometimes worry about the attention, but Issa has always stayed humble. Little kids ask him to sign stuff often, and that's the part I'm really proud of. He will sign autographs and shake hands. Coming from Mexican roots, you have a lot of kids that see opportunity in him and think if he can do it, I can too. I do gotta give him some props. Even though he's still young, he's a great role model for a ton of kids out there. That's enough about his story though and his come up to how he's gotten to where he is today. Let's talk about his game now. There's a lot to rave on, but just like his game, I'm gonna keep it short and simple. He's the flat out definition of a game manager. He's a true point guard and an old school point guard, but what separates him in this modern day is that he looks to score first. We know he makes all the passes and the right reads, but he can also score, and that's what makes him so elusive. The problem with guarding him is this one thing. An old school point guard, you wouldn't have to guard him up close because they look to pass a lot, whereas it's different. Silva looks to score first. If he's got the open three-pointer, he's gonna take it. And if you sag off, that's not gonna be good either because he's gonna get a head of steam and drive to the goal. This right here is where he creates 99% of his problems. He's at his best when he's driving. He's a knockdown shooter, but me personally, I think when he's going to the goal, he creates so many difficulties for the defense. If he gets by his man and the defensive crashes, he's going to make the right pass to the center or even to the kick out wing or corner. But if he's hot and he just feels like scoring and going up with it, he can do that too, whether it's a floater, a left-handed layup, or a right-handed layup. I'm not going to talk too much about his defense. All you need to know is that he has clamps. He separates himself on the defensive end because he actually tries, and for a high school player, that is so rare. A lot of these kids out there, and even maybe you watching this, think if you want to be a 3 or 4 or even 5-star recruit, you got to put up 20 to 30 points per game. That's not the case though. These colleges out there are looking for defensive players. Keep that in mind. And defensive players still dominate in the NBA. If you don't believe me, look at Draymond Green. That dude cannot score to save his life, and he's what, a 2 to 3 time champion? He's not a role player either, and you can arguably make a legitimate case that he's the most important player on the Warriors. I don't like to make predictions on this channel, and I don't know if I ever have, but I can almost guarantee you he's gonna go to the NBA. And the reason for that is because he does all the basic and fundamental things so perfectly. He's got a bright future. There's no other way to say it. And the best thing about him is that he still has a year of high school basketball left. Whether he gets to play due to what's going on, I have no idea, but even if he doesn't, he's gonna be just fine. With all that being said, there's one thing for sure. He's a beast and he's gonna be successful, and no matter what he chooses to do in life, whether that's basketball or anything else. And as always, let me know in the comment section what you think about Issa. Is he great? Is he good? Is he bad? Let me know. With all that being said, that's gonna wrap up this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something. If you're new to the channel, what are you doing? Join the family, hit that subscribe button, and leave a like for more. Road to 80K. Love you guys. I'm out, y'all. Let's be great. Peace.